I'm going to break down the Baylor women's volleyball roster and then go over like the ceiling and floor. And first of all, they do not have any seniors whatsoever. For the first time under Ron McGuire as a head coach, not just at Baylor, but in general. So they are very young. If you could say, I could say so myself. They even have 6 freshmen on the roster, but I'll go over those in a second. As well as like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 true sophomores, but there's 2 redshirt sophomores as well. So 7 sophomores in total, and the juniors are like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 juniors. Now I'm going to go over position by position. Position like a defense specialist is like Faith Lynch, who had an internship actually with Nike, by the way, and she does the podcast Dear Sports, by the way. So 5'7", that's a junior. So she's a 6th generation Baylor student in her family, and her number is number 6. Now, defensive specialist Les Libero, one of them like who just got a scholarship, is Lauren Brasinho, 5'7" junior. She probably is in a starting rotation, I would think. Of course, they do have like Tahani Ulufatu. Ulufatu. I apologize if I butchered any of these names or what I thought it sounded by looking at it sounds like it, and it's not. Just correct me down in the comments. So, just an FYI on that, and I appreciate that. By the way, she's a libero defensive specialist. That's 5'5" as a freshman, and I'm going to go over like the newcomers on what they could do as well, according to or when they signed with Baylor at the time. And now the middle blockers are like Victoria Davis. Tahani, by the way, is number 26, and Lauren is number 2. Now Victoria Davis is number 7, 6'2" as a middle blocker as a freshman. Ava Grace Haggard with number 9, 6'1" middle blocker, that's a junior. Alicia Andrews, number 18, 6'3" redshirt sophomore as a middle blocker. And Manuel Bibinbe, Bibinbe, something like that. I apologize in advance. 6'3" as a junior, as a middle blocker, number 20. Now, like they do have a few players, like 2 outside hitters that could technically be opposites as well. So I'm going to go over those 2, besides just the outside hitters and just opposites. Now, solely just outside hitters, like number 5, Kendall Stowers or Stowers. I don't know about that. 5'11", which is tall. That's a true freshman. Sophia King, number 10, 6'2" outside hitter. That's a sophomore. Kendall Murphy, 6'3" as a freshman, like outside hitter. Joya Screen, 6'3" outside hitter. That's a freshman, number 12. Alexis DeCosta, (5'11" outside hitter as a sophomore. Now the opposite slash outside hitter are like Riley Simpson, number 13, first of all, 6'4" tall, a redshirt freshman. Elise McGee, Karen McGee's sister, and Karen McGee's no longer in the roster. She's at Oregon, by the way. 6'4", that's a junior. That's an opposite hitter slash outside hitter slash opposite. Now, just the only opposite is Ali Czech, 6'4" tall as a sophomore. Now, the setters goes as follows. Of course, our best one is Avery Carlson, number 3, 5'11" tall as a sophomore. She's a starter. She's that good. Dude, y'all. I mean, once I say the numbers from last year and some of these returners, you'll be surprised. And she was a freshman last year when she did all that. Now, Brianna Denny, number 8, 5'11" tall as a sophomore as well as a setter. And the last setter is 6 foot tall as a freshman in Harley Crack, number 1. So, as you could tell, this team is young with those seniors, like I said, on an 18-player roster. And a third of your players are freshmen. And it's not including some sophomores on there as well. So, as you can tell, it's 6 freshmen, 7, 8, 9, 11, 12, 13. 13 players are underclassmen. And I do think being preseason number 3 in the Big 12 is reasonable. Because BYU is good. Of course, we know Texas is the dominant force. But once Texas leaves, it becomes a more winnable conference for us. That for Baylor down the line. But BYU is good. So, yeah. And those recruits, by the way, like Manuela, she's like was a Region 16 Player of the Year, first team All-American in 2021 when she was in Missouri State Plains. So, and Kendall Murphy as she was a number 18 recruit in the country, according to PrepVolleyball.com. Kendall Stowers. She was a number 16 recruit in the nation, according to PrepVolleyball.com, and number 1 player out of Texas, according to PrepDig.com. Yeah, that is something, I tell you that much. Harley Crack was a number 19 player in the country, according to PrepVolleyball.com. Victoria Davis is not ranked, but she played club volleyball for Legacy Volleyball, and she was a 4-time honor roll athlete in the 2022 AAU Junior Olympic Volleyball MVP. So, and she's the daughter of beach volleyball Olympian and current head coach of the Masters University, Ned Davis. By the way, I'm Victoria Davis. Yeah. Now, Julia Screen played Rio Volleyball Club in 2022. She was a high school all-region as well as AVCA high school first team All-American selection. And they advanced in the regional championships and advanced to the Final Four. And she was named Gwinnett County Super 6 as well as Region Player of the Year. And so, yeah. Now, Tahani played for Absolute 18 Black or under club volleyball for Absolute 18 Black, a team under like Tom Amberg. And in 2022, she was named a team captain and the MVP of the Durango tournament. So I'll put the article on the newcomers in the description below, as well as the roster and the schedule. And I tell you this much about the first 2 regular season games: it's going to be tough because, first of all, you have to play Wisconsin. I mean, what can I say? And same thing goes for Minnesota. And Minnesota, and both those matches are in Minneapolis, Minnesota, by the way. And they do have a practice game tomorrow, and that's kind of why I'm doing it right now. I'm previewing this team and what the team could do in terms of ceiling and the floor. And August, of course, they do have another practice game on August 19th as well at 4 in Bryan College Station at 4 p.m. and tomorrow is at 6 p.m. So just an FYI on that. And they are trying to find, once And Ron McGuire did say that they're trying to find like a leader for the team. I mean, in terms of like being vocal once the season gets closer. And they did say that, and one of the freshmen, by the way, Kendall Stowers, was named the Big 12 co-freshman of the year, by the way. So that's saying something about her. She could be a difference maker, as we all know. Yeah, and of course, what you're going to see, and like early on in the year, they should be totally different, if not better, in December as well, or November. And like I said, when you go look at the schedule, it's brutal in the beginning, and they even have Rice at home in there. And Rice almost made a Sweet 16 last year. We defeated them though, but I'm just saying, 3-2, and we beat them regular season 3-9. Luckily, after those, you should win Rice. Now, if you could steal one of Minnesota or Wisconsin, of course, both would be good too. Of course, if you win one of those two games, that would really boost your confidence. And not only that, it will give you a higher ranking, because I have to think both of those teams are going to be in the top 15 in the country. I would have to think so. For sure, top 20. Top 15, yes, for sure. I would think, and possibly even top 10 from both of those. And of course, I went over the schedule non-conference wise, but it does lighten up after that. Yes, it's on the road to SMU, Colorado State, Bowling Green, Pacific, but you should win those games, as well as Washington State. Of course, but then you have your next big test in Ohio State. But Ohio State lost a lot from last year, though. They're going to try to figure out as well, I know. But I'm just saying, based on what I've seen in terms of like an NCAA website said about Ohio State, they lost a lot of players from a year ago. Of course, the Big 12, you're going to start out the first Big 12 game against BYU on the road. I think that's a good thing. We're going to play Minnesota and Wisconsin early on just to test us, because BYU is a legitimate threat for the Big 12 crown. It's second place in this year. I don't know if they're going to get first place. I don't think nobody's going to catch Texas, but you know what I'm saying. Then you got to go on the road to Iowa State twice, but Iowa State's now picked to be as high. You should win those two. Hopefully you beat them at least once, if not twice. Then you got Kansas State at home the next two games, and you should win those. And Cincinnati you should beat. Granted, it's on the road for both of those. UCF, luckily you get that game at home. And they do list some, like, what times and what stations and everything, in terms of like TV too, by the way. Granted, you had to go on the road to Texas after UCF twice. You got to play Texas twice in 2 days. Yikes. And you never beat them there before. Just to steal one of those, it's good enough by me. I don't know about sweeping them. Texas at this point last year in the Big 12, as we all know. Same thing goes for Oklahoma. So, yeah. And speaking of Oklahoma, we do play them that one last time, and that's at home. And hopefully you win that one. And Texas Tech is on the road, but you should beat Tech, I would think. Granted, I know Texas Tech's not picked as high either, I believe, but I'm going to go over the Big 12. Poll after after this after the schedule, looking at over the schedule here. And after that you gotta play like the fourth best team in TCU. Luckily you get those two games at home, and we lost to them once last year. Hopefully we could beat them both times at home. But I know they have a second-year head coach, as we all know. Then Kansas is at Kansas, and they were the only team last year that beat Texas. Believe it or not. Actually, not Kansas. It was Iowa State. My bad. But you get the point. They pushed them. And luckily, you have like a home game against West Virginia. You should beat them. And Houston is going to be interesting in the Big 12. And that game's at home, fortunately. So literally, your last two games in the Big 12 are at home. November 22nd, respectively. Now, for the preseason poll, I do think first place is probably not achievable because of Texas in the way. But once Texas leaves, as well as Oklahoma, but Oklahoma's not been great recently, so I really do think once they go, Texas goes, you have a chance to win the Big 12 going forward. But as for this year, as we all know, the volleyball poll goes as follows: like Texas is number 1, BYU 2, Baylor 3, but BYU and Baylor were like really close. I mean, like just 2 points away in terms of total points. And Kansas is picked 5th. You should beat, and TCU's like number 4, like I said. Houston 6, Iowa State 7, Kansas State 8, UCF 9, Oklahoma 10, Texas Tech 11, Cincinnati 12, and West Virginia number 13. Yes, there's no Oklahoma State. They do not have that sport. Title 9. So I think it's safe to say you should beat every team that's below you in terms of preseason rankings, but as well as maybe, and you have to beat, and it would be helpful to beat BYU too. I mean, it would be helpful because I know that could very well be the difference between second place in the Big 12 and third place. It could be the difference. As we all know, we only play them about one time this year and everything. So yeah, that's very interesting. So what is the floor for this team? If you ask, it's more like top 4 in the Big 12, but at number 4 and make the NCAA tournament. That's the floor, in my opinion. Now the ceiling, second place in the Big 12, and a potential Elite 8 run. I don't know about Final 4 for this year. That's why I'm saying Elite 8 is the ceiling. And I know they're trying to look forward to finding get to the Sweet 16 again for the I believe 5th straight year, but let me go check. And we know that he's been at Baylor since 2015 as a head coach. I mean, 2015 until now. As we all know. Yeah. They made it to the Sweet 16, at least to that point, since, the 5th straight year. So they're trying to get there again, at least the 5th straight year, and I do think that's possible. And I think they could potentially win another game to get to the Elite 8. I'm just not so sure about a Final 4 appearance, to be honest. It all depends about matchups, first of all, and we're young, as once again when I went over that roster, it's a very young team. Though granted, I know we do have a few redshirt sophomores on there that are older, but you get the point in all this. And we did lose some seniors, as we all know, from like a year ago. So, like Lauren Harrison, she's gone. Mallory Talbert's gone. Karen McGee is gone. That's just naming some examples right there. But we do have Elise McGee coming back, and that will help. That will help. So, and Alex Check as well. Of course, Lauren Brasinho, like I said, some of those, when you look at the stats, it's very important to have that, and Alexis DaCosta's back as well. So that does help a ton. And I know we're young, but we have a capability of finishing like second place in the Big 12 this year. And I do think it's helpful that we play Ohio State at home. And I know we have to play Minnesota at Minnesota, and that's not going to be easy. In Wisconsin, as a neutral site at Minnesota, in the state of Minnesota, on the campus of Minnesota Minnesota Gophers in the Big Ten. But I know that's not going to be easy, but it's going to help us. I really do, and we'll have to wait and see what the preseason rankings say about us. But to me, I would think this team would be preseason ranked no worse than 20. But in terms of like preseason rankings for me, I would say no higher than 12 or 13 or 14. Like the 12 through 14 range seems to be the highest for me. But we'll have to wait and see. And I know that it's going to get released later on today, but I just want to go over that. And I know preseason rankings don't mean anything. And it's going to be interesting, like I said, with Texas and Oklahoma leaving after this upcoming athletic year. And it does get easier once Texas leaves. It's not so much Oklahoma leaves. No. It's Texas that's the big one that's going to leave this conference in terms of this sport. But I know BYU is going to be probably right there with us some. So, yeah. And we know a year from now we're going to get Colorado back in the Big 12. And we're going to get Arizona State. But both of those, and we're going to get Utah as well. But I know Arizona State is not that great. Utah, off and on. So, anyways, if you like this content, like and subscribe us. See you guys later. 500 subscribers. We're on the road to. Let's go.